we are all set to begin our panel discussion. That is going to be panel discussion number 3, and the topic of the panel discussion is going to be reduction in cost and gestation time for nuclear expansion, various industry models.
After last 3 days of discussion on various available reactors and different technologies world over and deploying it, how fast. Now, this particular topic, that is reduction in cost and gestation time to nuclear expansion, various industry models, is a topic that I am remembering who will build the cat. Like in our younger days, we have heard the story that some cat has been disturbing so many rats. So some rat gave an idea that you have to build the cat so that you will. Then finally one elder cat asked, who will build the cat? So this is the real question, because nuclear now safety, people are more or less convinced. But how fast we can deploy and so that it becomes an affordable power? That is a real question now. Maybe eminent colleagues are going to accompany me. I will welcome one by one so that we can start the panel discussion now. Now I welcome Mr. Anil Parab, Director of L&T, then Mr. V.Ramany, EDF, then Mr. Gorlin, then Mr. Alexandre Volgin, and Mr. Srivastava from NTPCIL. So eminent panelists are there. Please, sir. So I think the speaker before this panel discussion, Mr. Nadaf was there, who was presenting from Alexandre. You would have seen, many of you would have seen, that he was projecting a target of 200 gigawatt in 40 years, which has to be added in India alone. That is a target set for nuclear based upon some study by Vivekananda Foundation. That means, let us say from 2030, we have to add 5 gigawatt per year. I am talking about my country, India only. And world over now, in this COP28 also, some 17 countries have joined together for tripling the nuclear capacity. Now, 5 gigawatt per year in India alone means, let us assume that 50% we add by PHWR of 700 megawatt maximum capacity what we have, a stabilized one, and 50% through import routes. That means per year 4 units of 700 megawatt has to be added in India. Per year 4 unit means 1 unit is having 1 calendar year, 2 NCILs, 4 steam generators, 4 recirculating pumps. All these things are there. Similar is the case for imported reactors. If you have to have 2 or 4 of 1000 megawatt or 1650 also EDF design, then there also RPV per year, 1 RPV or 2 RPVs are required. So that is with respect to industrial capability, how we will be able to deliver. Plus, because nuclear is other than this SMRs, it is a construction intensive, capital intensive and construction incentive. Lot many skilled laborers are also required at site. So only these 2 parameters are required to be addressed preliminarily, how fast we can go ahead. So how do you start about our panel discussion? Maybe we can express our views one by one, and then we can take questions from the audience, and then further we can discuss upon that. That will be okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll start from there. Srivastava.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. First of all, I thank the organizers for inviting me to give my opinion on this very, very important critical subject and be a part of this elite panel speaking to this learned audience. Rightfully said by you, sir. Now we are speaking of a target date. So once the date is fixed, time is fixed, and today the start date has already, we know. So now we are working under a time constraint. Now going against this time constraint, and as you just shared, 5 gigawatt per year, that is a Herculean task. And to build this capacity in nuclear, it's not single or 2, 3 dimensions, it's multi-dimensional. I have rightly picked that it is not only from the component side, from the manufacturing, it is from the manpower, from the resources, from the finance, and since it is a nuclear, the people of India, the common man of India also should be ready to accept this power. Mentally ready, yes, it's clean power, it's a safe power, it's a green power. So I think this is a very, very important discussions. So with that, I think with this opening remark, I'll pass on to Mr. Ramany. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Srivastava. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Maybe to add on to the challenge, because you've been throwing big numbers, and we also in Europe have big numbers, and so I have to mention them because basically as EDF, obviously we want to support India's growth and developing its nuclear industry, and we also have to address European needs. And so for you to have an idea, when all the energy ministers in Europe met, and those who are like-minded related to nuclear, they collectively aimed for a target of 150 gigawatt additional installed capacity in Europe by 2050. When you look at what is currently in the plans, energy plans of the different countries in Europe, what you account for is a minimum of 27 reactors to be added in Europe. I'm including United Kingdom still in the geographical Europe. And the number with the different optionalities and potential additions goes up to 49 reactors to be added by 2050. So you can see that clearly the challenges we are facing are very similar in a market which has to essentially renew its capacity, but also add and grow because of the doubling of electricity demand in that period. Now, on the face of that, I think what we should recognize as well is that if we are to build all these nuclear reactors, and a number of those programs we hope will be underway and under construction in the 2030s, we can imagine that around the globe there will be significant tension on capacity, both from starting from engineering, but also going through manufacturing and project management capabilities, because these are mega projects we're talking about. And we have to acknowledge that these tensions in resources are in front of us. On one side, we need to grow the capacity and the volumes. On the other, we know it will not be growing fast enough and we will be facing tension. So I think two ideas maybe to add to the topic of this discussion and see how to effectively mean for reduction in cost and gestation time. Number one is it will be extremely difficult if we do not foster cooperation and regional cooperation, because clearly it wouldn't make sense for India to build up so much capacity that at some point in the future it would be sitting idle, and likewise in Europe. And at the same time, neither India nor Europe will be able to build up such capacity as quickly as needed. And so cooperation is, I think, a very important element. And the other aspect related to that, I think, is related to how we can define areas of maybe specialization which will allow one country or supporting another through the means of specialization, and therefore being more cost efficient in doing so. In our approach, when we factor in India and cooperation with India, we also have in mind our ability to leverage the Indian industrial capabilities to support our programs in Europe. Jaitapur is an entry point into that. So allowing the Indian industry to gather and meet the EPR requirement and standards for Jaitapur is a gateway for other markets, and that's the way we see it. This is true for engineering, manufacturing, and also project management capabilities. Thank you.
Parab sir?
Yeah, thank you. I think I would say for achieving such ambitious target on fast track basis, four most important things are important. First, the current methodology, which is more conventional method of procurement. We'll have to change to program management approach, because unless you have that long-term vision where you will approach in a program management, that's the first. The second, I would say, is the standardization. Industry after industry, if you see, or even in infrastructure, when there is a standardization of technology, standardization of design, standardization of quality assurance plan, you will get productivity, speed, reliable quality. So second, which will be extremely important, is the standardization. Third is the long-term engagement of the stakeholders, not transaction by transaction. Supply chain, whatever you want to make a choice, after that actually engage them on a long-term basis. That will bring digitalization, Industry 4.0, modularization, because everybody is planning for that continuity, long-term basis. The talent pool, what is very crucial, critical. When they see that, okay, next 10, 15 years you are going to do same thing again and again, actually obviously the challenges of retaining, training, they simply will disappear. And the fourth important part when such large ambitious program is there is what I call it as full kit. Now, you can't have start-stops. That means you launch, then you have difficulty in securing full land, you have difficulty in overcoming local public related issues, funding availability. Once launched, all of these are in place, there is no stop. If that is there, then I would say even such ambitious target, it is possible to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks the organizing committee for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be here among such brilliant people that I've met numerous times this year. So I guess the recipe is already here because we have good examples. Example of France, example of Russia constructing a series of reactors. For example, 900 megawatts, it was a perfect example. 300 megawatts in France as well. In Russia, reactors of series V320 have been constructed in numerous countries with good cost. So the recipe is already here. What we are missing is a commitment of the government to achieve these goals, because government oftenly is fixing something, so we will get the net zero emissions by 2070 point, and you do whatever you want. So what we need is a clear roadmap, and now when we get it, the vendors, the suppliers will enter this game. It will allow to lower the costs. It will allow to make people training more efficient. There will be more personnel. The recipe is here. Just let's use it. Thank you.
So maybe in the first round of discussion, what we have emerged is from this side, we have to have total global cooperation basically, so that the resources here in our country is utilized elsewhere, and the resources or the brains available over there and the technology available over there is also shared with us, so that it increases the pace. And in addition to that, we should have a standardization design and standardization optimization, so that we move ahead fast. This is with respect to, let us say, supply chain management or something. But if you think about the site work, like we ultimately, nuclear plant as bulk addition of power is required. SMRs anyway we can build in the factory and we can come. That is what it's being told now. But for bulk addition of power we require large capacity plants. And let us say for in Kudankulam we have 1000 megawatt 2 units set up with assay. And in Jetapur 1650s may come up, and we have 700. Average, for a twin unit, the peak manpower required for around 3 years will be around 8,000 persons has to be there. It's not like a thermal plant. And in 8,000 persons at a time for 3 years continuously, What happens, in Indian conditions, I can say there are festivals like Deepavali, Holi, or local elections coming in their state, this manpower suddenly will go away. So for 8,000, we have to have a backup of 2 more. Means 16,000 should be in the backup. In this 8,000, around 40% has to be skilled in the form of cable pullers or welders or fitters or something like that. And rest will be unskilled manpower. So imagine a case of around 3,000 skilled manpower means backup of 6,000 additional, and parallelly some multiple units coming all over there. How do we think, Srivastava sir, that we will be able to manage this skilled manpower requirement?
See, I am from a thermal power plant background, so I'll share my experience. You have rightly said that manpower, and in the Indian context, the festivals, the other important, they are just swayed away, and which is not under the control of the developer, not at all. And to further regarding the backup, the condition is, it is a real life practical condition, at least from NTPC experience, there is no backup. That is the true fact. And projects do suffer because whatever we do in a momentum, as per schedule, it takes X amount of time. But if the schedules are fragmented with disruptions, whether it is 2x, 3x or nx, it can be anything. And manpower is, which has no substitute. With respect to the plant machineries, tools and tackles, we can bring more. We can have sufficient backup. But manpower, yes, there is a real problem. Just to add further to that, there is a distinct difference. The way we do the construction in India as compared to the developed countries. And this is, NTPC has the opportunity to work with almost all the global suppliers who have taken various contracts, and during the execution phase they had deployed their Indian counterparts. One distinct difference what we have observed, that is with respect to the safety. And safety is such an important aspect, which is totally, the impact is unpredictable. Although we know as per the statistical figures that we can predict, but it is a real life situation that with the quality of manpower, what we have and what we get, and the safety standards, that is one more problem which is very critical for in the construction phase, and which effectively affects the gestation period of a project of this magnitude. Next, one more important aspect is there. Although we speak of quality, we understand quality, but when it comes to the grassroots implementation of quality, perhaps it needs to be done much more. Because we are of the firm opinion and we believe that if safety and quality during the project construction phase, it is ensured not through systems and practices, but by the each and every stakeholder who is directly or indirectly involved in the construction of the project. He may be sitting in somewhere in the other part of the globe, but whatever the material he is supplying, whatever the logistics that has been planned, both safety and quality, if it is not put in the proper way, that affects the construction time, and finally what we result into overrun, time overrun, cost overrun, gestation period. So this is the context, I think, of why we are here, and this context, these problems, we need to find solutions while we do the capacity addition in the whatever we are doing just now from here onwards. Because if we don't change, I repeat, if we don't change the way we have done our earlier projects, whatever we are discussing, we'll never achieve. We cannot achieve. Because last 50 years, approaching 50 years, I have seen that problems and surprises come which just affects time and cost. So we have to overcome these surprises. We have to see, in the Indian context particularly, how we can control such disruptions. And it is only then, whatever target we are achieving, whatever target we are aspiring, with the help of the regional cooperation, what Mr. Ramany told, definitely we can achieve it. Thank you.
Mr. Ramany, just one question to you specifically, and probably to Mr. Volgin also same thing will apply later. How do you internationally see the shortage of skilled manpower working at site? Because your 1650 project also is a manpower intensive project which requires at site. So you have constructed in various countries. I don't want a China example, but I want an example in your country. Yeah.
Very happy to contribute to the thinking. Maybe to give you a few numbers. So typically, the ongoing construction project that we have in the UK today, which is Hinkley Point C, at peak we see 8,000 people on site, effectively. So I mean, I acknowledge the numbers that you mentioned earlier. Now, as we said this morning, we are planning for a 6 CPR program in France. For that, when we look at it from an industry-wide perspective, what we need is to add an addition of 1 lakh people to the industry. The French nuclear industry, or I should say, is round about 2.2 lakh people. Okay, and our estimate is that we need to get it to above 3 lakh people to make sure that we have enough people to deliver the 6 CPR programs in France. Now, clearly, human capability building, capacity building is at the heart of whether we can succeed or not, exactly as you mentioned. And this is where, this is an area where the industry cannot manage on its own. It absolutely needs the support of the government. That's absolutely essential. Why is it so? Because typically, when we talk about a 6 CPR program in France, or if we talk about JETAPUR or the PHWR programs, we are talking about programs over a span of 20-25 years, meaning that those people who will be effectively on the ground building the plans or acting and performing the engineering studies, they're probably today in high school or, not even in a high school maybe, And so this requires a significant input, support from government with specific policies, not only to direct the pupils towards technical areas, and then outside of the technical areas, they need to be attracted by the industry, by the nuclear industry. So we get a fraction of a fraction, actually. And that is definitely a big challenge. Now, if you think about it, and we have seen this happening in Europe, and in France especially, there has been quite some time, especially after Fukushima, where we've seen depletion of, of people. The number of people in our nuclear, ranks, we struggled keeping the numbers because there were more attractive areas elsewhere. We can have a debate on whether the SMR can effectively grow and be successful in the future. One very positive thing that the SMR has done is that it has, for sure, provided some attractiveness to the industry. And the young talents have been looking at that as an object where they can relate to it and say, yes, this is the kind of nuclear I would like to work into. And we have seen interest coming back and new talents joining us again since we have been working on the SMR and plans for SMR. Now, from governments, to ensure that basically industry on one side with our plans and government work hand in hand, we need basically three things from governments. Number one, we need governments to put these programs in visibility. High visibility is absolutely needed. In France, at last, now we have reached high visibility. Worldwide, I think progressively we're reaching high visibility, but visibility is needed. Visibility in its own right is not enough because that's essentially communication. The second thing that is needed is legitimacy. Is it needed? And we have to clarify, explain why it is needed and why nuclear currently is absolutely essential for us to deliver, on the different objectives we would have, and that would combine climate change goals as well as energy independence or security of supply. The third aspect is credibility. And the credibility piece, there is only one way you can address credibility is by making decisions. Because we can talk about plans, that is visibility. We can explain why we have plans, that is legitimacy. But until you make decisions, you don't have any job to give to people. And so we need these three coming from the government. And this is how we, in our partnership approach with the UK government, with the French government, do effectively try and move things forward. And we're very glad to share that experience with NPCIL as needed.
I'll go to Mr. Volgin now. Maybe you have plenty of plans coming up in Rupur, you are in Bangladesh, as well as in Turkey also. I think some plans are coming up. Have you faced the shortage of, our topic is gestation time, and we approximately calculate in 5 or 6 years plant will become commercial from the start of first pour of concrete. But overall there has been a slippage, and many of the reasons are attributable to the local site delays, as Mr. Srivastava was telling, because of non-availability of manpower. So how do you feel this has affected in upcoming Bangladesh or in Turkey? What's your experience in this? Or something like that?
Thank you for this challenging question. The thing is that I guess it's common for all the vendors, and specifically for Rosatom, who is constructing much more units outside of the country than inside the country. The resources remain a critical and challenging option. So I know that for Rupur nuclear power plants, it's hard to find the personnel. The project is ongoing. It's on time as well, but it's always difficult to attract people in foreign countries. and specifically experienced people, because we cannot find them easily. But we involve local population, we make trainings, we have engineering schools, we make cooperations, and through these common programs we attract new persons and new brilliant people as well. This is for the large-scale NPPs. For the SMRs, I guess it will be another challenge, because we are starting somehow from the scratch about the globally idea of NPPs, of using modular reactors. Probably skilled personnel we will need it less because of the concept itself, and probably we will solve this issue. But let's see, the future will show it. Thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Fine, understood. So Parab sir, L&T has always been a partner in what you call NPC's program. Other than your regular supplies of critical equipment, in all our construction, you have been deploying massive manpower. Okay, and in many projects, you know, as I told initially, that this manpower swaying is there because of local festivals, elections, and other things. So how do you address these challenges, and what do you foresee in the near future for large capacity addition with respect to this?
Yeah, I think first of all, what you highlighted, challenges of vacations, then turnover of manpower, these are realities, and more so post-pandemic, because there is a change in behavior of laborers. One issue what Vakis talked about, visibility, credibility, which is a fact which I had articulated, continuity. Basically, that is one very important issue. And numbers, what you said, 8,000 required for one plant at a peak. Actually, I have a different view over there, because like what you said, L&T mobilized large laborers, which is a fact. At this moment, we have deployed 300,000 laborers in the country. Where is 8,000? Where is 300,000? And if it is required to be scaled up to 400,000, in a country like India, it is not an issue. The issue is of different kind. The issue is the skill level. Because you talked about 40% of that is a high skill. Here, the change in behavior, what I told you, we do see a shift. Because now projects are going across the country, and large infrastructure projects are being launched, whether it is roads, whether it is ports, water, you name it, all kinds of projects are there in all over country. So post-pandemic, there is a preference to work closer to my native origin. This is one shift which is there. Second, when there is a very complex, demanding work, there is a tendency to try up to a certain level and then give up, because there are easy options available. Now, I would say that for this, what I had talked, I was not talking only manufacturing, I had shown examples of construction. Modularization will reduce your requirement of manpower significantly at the site. So modular, I am not only talking of small modular reactor, I am even talking of nuclear plant modularization, because obviously if you go with rebar and concrete, then no modularization is possible. There partly I talked about precast and those liners, modular. But L&T is actually building full plants in our modular fabrication yards and shipping to Singapore for Linde, Germany. Compressor modules completely made in the yard and shipped to Singapore. CO2 capture plant completely made in India, shipped to Netherlands. Now there is a fertilizer plant being built. It will go in modular way directly to Australia. Now, this is enhancing safety, enhancing quality at site, requirement of manpower, which is especially the high-skilled manpower, that will go down significantly. So, I would say numbers is not an issue. Training, now L&T is running across the country 16 skill training institutes only for L&T's work. Okay. There is infrastructure, continuously training the laborers. So I would say the challenges, more than number, the long-term visibility, continuity. Second, must look at modularization. And third is keep training the laborers. Yeah. And also, one more thing which we had to ramp up the living conditions of these labor camps at the site. Because today, if you see what we were doing before pandemic and today, I would say significant difference, better conditions and all that, so that they should feel like staying there and working there. These are the things.
Maybe now we have addressed some issues with respect to our topic, because ultimately how fast we deploy this nuclear and how affordable it is. That is the crux of this issue as of now.